Pursuant to, I'm sorry, hello. I get like right down to business. So thanks to everybody for being here this afternoon or this evening. And we have a very long meeting, so I'm gonna get right into it. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, public notice of this meeting has been given by the board secretary in the following manner: posting written notice on the official bulletin board at the Voorhees Township Public Schools Administrative Building on August 17th, 2023, sending written notice to the Courier Post on August 17th, 2023, filing written notice with the clerk of Voorhees Township on August 17th, 2023, and posting on the Voorhees Township website on August 17th, 2023. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bryce?
Here.
Ms. Kedover?
Here.
Mr. Rosen?
Here.
Mr. Rosner?
Here.
Mrs. Rudder?
Here.
Mrs. Stewart?
Here.
Mrs. Stubler?
Here.
Ms. Birdie?
Here.
Mrs. Watson?
Here. So we're going to go a little out of order. We're going to start with the public hearing on the 2024-2025 budget. Okay, I'm joking. We're going to do the kids first, then we're going to move to the public hearing on the 2024-2025 budget, and then we will do the RFP for the solicitor. Okay.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to invite Director of Special Services, Dr. Alegria, forward so she can introduce her staff and our student presentation. And board members, we can go down so we can see this presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so good evening, Dr. Hackett, President Watson, Vice President Kedover, all of our Board of Education members and community. As a Director of Special Services, I always love to brag about the great things happening in our department and within the district. Tonight, I'd like to showcase a club that we have at the middle school, which brings both general education student mentors and special education students together in a facilitated and collaborative manner. SPORT, which stands for Special Programs and Organized Recreational Teams, is a program that we have at the middle school. So while this program has been around for a few years, it continues to grow each year, and I really felt as though it was a group that more people should be aware of that exists at the middle school. I do want to say a little shameless plug. On June 8th, we have our second annual Buddy Day program. So that brings together our elementary school classrooms that have buddy teams, and then also the middle school, which includes the sport program. So if anybody is available, please come. It's at the middle school from 10 to 12. But without further delay, I do want to turn this over to two of our teachers who are here today, Mrs. Steinbeck and Miss Mesa, who are two of our exceptional teachers at the middle school who have overseen and worked to grow this program. They brought some very amazing students with them, and so I'd like to turn that over to them now. Thank you.
Dr. Alegria mentioned, we run the school. So we run a program at the middle school. We meet it's been around probably since 2009, and it is an after-school club. So although we do encourage students that they find interesting, back in 2009, we said, let's start a club that is for our kids that might find it more difficult to access other clubs that are they're socially unsure or just not comfortable with. So sport was created very safe space. our movement games, obstacle courses. We try to like, come up with activities throughout the year, courses in the year, everybody puts so again, it's geared toward our kids and our classes. So, so of course, the most part of the program is they are the athletes. They basically they say, they're anything at like from 6th to 8th grade, and I think I have a role model for these students that I know very well that might know. So every year, it's just this time that we have a handful of kids. They are like these 56 and 10. Might struggle with. So they come in and their role is to go and learn responsibility. Their role is to so they come in, there's a positive role model, whether it's helping them navigate through the activities for that day, or a lesson, or physics modeling, they essentially become and it's pretty cool to see from week 1, week 2, week 3, and for the rest of the we kind of see that and we're kind of on the show. Part of it is just the team and the mom. And they're just they're not trying. Their kids, they want to. And every year, I kind of worry about, no way we can do that. No way there's this many good kids out there that really have that, what it takes to be that role model, to be that positive. And I enjoy inspiring kids. It brings them to keep them in practice. It's very hard. And in a world with so much negativity, this is the safest space you can be in. It's such a great so I do have tonight, this message I have tonight from some of our friends. So any brave souls that want to come up, and I wanted them to share I'd rather them speak and tell everybody why they love. So this is our friend George. Okay. Sure, you made it. All right, go ahead, George.
This time back, I'm used to one sport club. It's nice and doesn't like ice cream. And
in this sport club. Bringing sport club to everyone. I can reflect upon this club because I have a family member. And they would also enjoy it, but I don't look at anything. What I really like was I like the ice cream sweet. I like the ice cream good and I was yeah fan. What is on YouTube? And then it's kind of a lot of them. This is my favorite costume. He's a vampire. Pleased to meet him. Dr. Hudson.
Can we please give them another round of applause? They were absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much to the students, the parents, the teachers. That was truly amazing. And we now know about this wonderful program. Thank you so much.
Now we are moving to the public hearing on the 2024-2025 budget. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing on the 2024-2025 budget?
So moved.
Second.
Online voting is open. I can just do a verbal for you. Motion unanimously passes. I have to announce.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we'll go over the budget, the budget that was approved by the county and also that was voted on in March to submit to the county. We have a timeline of the budget process, and the way the timeline is written is that it starts with the board and ends with the board. So the board adopts district educational philosophy and goals and ensures that they are met during the year. The next step in the process is ongoing throughout the year. And we have a modified site-based management where each school administrator and department director manages their facility budget and attains district goals. The business office begins meeting with directors and principals in January regarding their budget for the next year. We implement flat budgeting, providing the appropriate resources to each facility to attain district goals while functioning within the state imposed financial parameters. State aid is released 2 days after the budget address from the governor. So it's, I think it was the 29th of February this year. The Board Finance Committee met on March 6th to go over the budget. We create a budget binder that we give to the committee. We meet with them and go over it, and then we distribute the binders to the full board the next day. Then the board met on March 13th to approve the budget for submission to the county. The county reviews it. We got approval from the county on April 11th that our budget passed. Then we have to advertise the budget that was in the paper on April 24th. And then the vote on the budget is tonight. So the timeline is right there on the screen right now. So it's just really just an overview of the whole process. The next page is budget facts. And the budget facts kind of mirror the next page, which is also called budget facts sheet. So if you want to look at both of those at the same time, that would be fine. The budget, the general fund state aid this year, as we talked about back in March, our aid was decreased by $1,052,957. And that really was based on the state formula, and equalization aid is where it went down. So our total state aid is $5,028,488. The general fund budget this year, if you look at the budget fact sheet, you'll see I start out with the general fund amount of $67,605,748. And then I back off capital reserve because each year there's different capital projects that are done. So in order to compare apples to apples, we're taking the capital projects out. So you can see if we look at the general fund from year to year, it went up 2.16 million. And that is an increase of 3.51%. And the hard part about balancing a budget is that went up 3.51%, but you have a CPI of 5.81% that certain contracts can go up on, like our transportation contracts can go up 5.81 if we're renewing them. Our health insurance and prescription went up 10%. And then we have various contracts that have percentages that are higher than the amount we can raise tax levy by. So it's really not that bad that it went up 3.51. We were kind of proud of that fact that we were able to keep it at that level. But the budget itself is 63 million. The next thing is tax levy. You can increase your tax levy by 2%. So that for us is $1,028,000. So you have the revenue side of the budget and the expense side of the budget, and you're trying to make both of those balance. So the tax levy went up $1 million. The state aid is $5 million. And then the rest you have to find out, where you should have that come from. Again, we could raise the taxes higher than 2%, but we don't want to do that. So we keep it at the 2%. Then we calculate out what that means to the average homeowner. And because ratables went up this past year by 0.12%, the 2% increase for the average taxpayer is 1.84% because ratables have increased. So on the tax rate on the average home would be, the increase would be $76.69 or $6.39 a month for the average house that's assessed at $263,084. So the rest of the revenue side of the budget, in order to balance it, like we talked about tax levy, we talked about state aid, the rest of it is coming from capital reserve to fund our capital projects of $4,020,000 and maintenance reserve of 1.7 million, emergency reserve of 186,000, and fund balance of 1.3, and also another million from fund balance. So that's the revenue side of the budget. For the last few years, we've had the benefit of having ESSER grants from COVID. That ends in September of 24. So certain programs that we talk about, we were doing because of ESSER, and we could do some capital improvements because of it, but that'll be over in September. But the one thing about this budget is this budget maintains all existing programs, student services, and it stays within the 2% cap. So that's a really great thing too. The separate budget is our preschool expansion, because that's funded by the preschool expansion aid. So that budget is $7,827,884. We budgeted for 400 students. So the state aid that we receive is a little over 6 million. And we have to transfer $1.2 million into that to cover the inclusion students, because that's just how the budgeting works. So that comes from our general fund into that. And we have carryover from last year of $262,124. So basically, I went over the fact sheet and the fact spreadsheet. But the fact spreadsheet just shows, the increases in the budget, the tax levy, the ratables, and shows that the 2% is an effective rate of 1.84% on the taxpayer. If you look at the next page, we have two pie charts. And it's just a nice visual to see like our revenue sources. The biggest part of our revenue really is the local tax levy. And then after that, you see the 15.9%, which is state aid. And then to a much lesser degree, other resources and federal aid. The next pie chart is our operating budget, and the bulk of our budget is regular and special education instruction. That's what we are here for education, and so the bulk of our budget is that. And you see the other components of it listed as well: employee benefits, capital outlay, operations and maintenance, and insurance. That leads us to the advertised budget. So as I stated, the whole budget process is really prescribed by law, and you have to do certain things by certain dates. And so after having the budget approved by the county, we have to put it in the newspaper. And it has to be by a certain time period before your public hearing, which is what we're doing right now. So this advertised budget is laid out in various sections. And then after the budget is approved, we will put the user-friendly budget on our website, which is similar to this, but slightly different. But again, all this is prescribed by law. So I'm going to quickly go through these pages. But the first page shows our enrollment. The first two columns represent our actual enrollment. The third column is a projected enrollment. And then after that, we have the advertised revenues, and it's detailed by all the line items in the budget. And then it goes into the detail of the advertised appropriations. So you'll see there's various funds. We have Fund 10, Fund 20, Fund 30, Fund 40. Fund 10 is our general fund. Fund 20 is our special revenue fund or grants, and also preschool. Fund 30 is not on here. Fund 30 is a side fund where we track all of our capital projects, and it's really an informational type of fund. And Fund 40 is debt service, which we don't have any because we don't have any debt, which is also a great thing. We're able to, at this point, we've been able to fund our capital projects with capital reserve money. So even the preschool building that we purchased and the renovations of the preschool building is coming from capital reserve, and also a grant that we obtained for $6 million for preschool facilities expansion. All right, so then there's a recap of balances page, and that basically shows our fund balance and our reserves. There's an advertised per pupil cost calculation. A lot of times people will say, oh, how much does it cost to educate a child? And so this is what this shows, all the different categories of what it is per pupil. And every year we have a mid-year budget review with the county, and all the different levels that they look at, we're in good shape. Like, we are in the favorable position versus being overspending in any of these categories. So we're also proud of that. The last page of this advertised budget shows our capital projects. So if you have a withdrawal from capital reserve, which we have a withdrawal of $4,020,000, you need to detail what the categories are that you're using that for in both a chart and in writing. So you'll see the top of that page shows the chart, and then the other part is it in writing. So the different categories here, we repeat a lot of these categories every year. So we have refurbished bathrooms, replacement of interior doors, replacement of windows. We do that throughout the district every year. Re-asphalt parking lot, we kind of rotate that by each location. We're still working on converting this building over to municipal sewer. Replacing carpet with hard surface flooring, that's been going on since 2019. So each year we have that in here. Renovating the vestibule at VMS, that's going to be a new entrance area to where people, enter. Now will be coming out a little bit more and more enclosed, more security. HVAC, every year we do HVAC renovations, and the preschool expansion. You see $1 million here, and that's really just the final piece of it, because last year we withdrew 11 million. This year, 1 million, and then the 6 million is a grant that we received. So all that money is put into Fund 30 in order to renovate the building. If it doesn't get spent, it goes back into capital reserve. And then the very last piece is not part of the presentation, but the item on the agenda to vote on the budget is right after this presentation. It shows the different categories that I was talking about. First of all, it talks about the dates that I mentioned about when the budget was approved for the county, when the county approved it, bless you, when the advertisement went in, and tonight when the public hearing happens. It has the different funds that are listed, the general fund, the special revenue fund, the total budget, the tax levy. It goes into the withdrawal from the reserves, the capital reserve withdrawal of 4,020,000. And again, you see that same writing, the same narrative. Then there's the maintenance withdrawal of 1.7, the emergency withdrawal. You can only take money out of the emergency reserve for security items. And if healthcare is above 4%, which ours is, our healthcare went up 10%. So we took the rest of the emergency withdrawal out for that. So we took 186,000. That doesn't account for the whole amount of the increase, but it does help. And then we always have to disclose travel regulations. And what that really is, it's not travel like you would think, it's more professional development. And that's for staff. So that is the entirety of the budget presentation. It's now open for questions from the board, and then we open it for questions of the public. Should I stay here or should I go back to my seat? Okay, whichever. I wasn't sure what direction. Okay. So, okay. Do I leave this on? Do I leave this on?
We'll now open for public comment related to the budget, the 2024-2025 budget.
Good evening, and my name is Eric Simkin. I'm a resident of Voorhees. The other day when I got home, there was a letter in the mail discussing and asking for us to open up our doors to our home for a tax assessment. And 2 weeks before that, the New Jersey legislature voted to increase the school tax cap from 2% to 9.95%. Are we to anticipate any increases to the 2% cap in Voorhees? Is a question. And the $4 million that we spent at Crescent, I know that came from the reserves, but it appears that we're replacing that with a kindergarten building and pre-K. And I know how hard I have to work to live in Voorhees, and all residents do, and we enjoy living here, as do I. And we just want to ensure that there's fiscal accountability and transparency on every line of this budget. And I would appreciate letting us know what to anticipate in the year and years coming ahead as far as our tax increases that we should expect or not expect, and why. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, it is true that you can raise the taxes higher than 2%. That is not something that we want to do. There's something called banked cap, and we are eligible to use banked cap. And you're right, the legislation changed it because so many people were cut with their state aid. I think they increased the amount you could raise your taxes by. We don't want to do that. We kept it at the 2%. We felt that that was sufficient. So we do not plan on going above the 2%. I guess every year we have to look at it, but we have not done that before, and it's not really our goal to do that. So we would like to stay within the 2%. The $4 million for Crescent did come from capital reserve. That is true. And each year we're able to replenish capital reserve to some effect. There was a very large capital reserve that had been built over many years. So there were projects that were listed in our long range facilities plan that could be done. We started to do them. And that's what we've been using the capital reserve money for. That particular building was not in the long range facilities plan originally. But when we went to full day kindergarten and we were expanding, that's what it was originally going to be used for. And then it got changed over to preschool. And we didn't even know about the preschool expansion grant yet at that point. But the building, just as it was opening, it opened in September of 22. In July of 22 is when we were eligible to apply for the preschool expansion or preschool education aid, and we were approved. So right away, we were at capacity at Crescent. So the Crescent addition became kindergarten and partially preschool, which we had moved over there. But then it opened up a whole new realm of preschool. So we have providers that we use, and we needed more space to reach our universe, which is calculated at 500 students. You can't use preschool education aid for building. Most districts would go out for a referendum to build, but because we still had a sizable capital reserve, we used that money for it. Plus, the great thing is we applied for the preschool facilities expansion grant. So we were awarded $6 million for that. So that was really a big help too, because originally we were saying we could probably only renovate one floor at a time because we didn't want to deplete our capital reserve for one project. But it worked out that we got $6 million. So that will be good too. We're very conscious about depleting the capital reserve. We don't want to. There's other projects that are in there we'd like to do in the future. And we try to manage the budget in such a way that we can deposit money each June into it. And you asked about the new pre-K building. We are supposed to house 500 students one way or another, whether it's in our buildings or at providers. So we have private providers that we work with. They get money from that preschool expansion aid that we pass on to them. And we have contracts on this agenda for it. But whatever the case, we are using the money I was just mentioning for that building, for purchasing it, and between the capital reserve and the grant money we're using for that building. Does that answer your questions? Thank you. Any other questions from the public? Then the board.
Open for board comments. I think we said it at our last meeting.
I have a comment. I have a question, sorry.
I'm speaking. I will recognize you in a second. I think we said it at our last meeting that you did an extraordinary job given the difficulties of the budget cuts, and I want to reiterate it now again. This is exceptional, and we're incredibly appreciative. I think we've been incredibly lucky to have a board that is fiscally responsible, but being led by a board secretary and your team that cares so deeply about ensuring that we keep a strong capital reserve, but also meet all of our budgetary needs is incredibly important. Ms. Stupler.
I have a question, Helen. I know I read in one of the newsletters that the state was considering making up for the loss of money we got from the state. So are we eligible for any of that, or?
I think there's an application process. We haven't received any of the information, but typically it would be a hardship. Like you would have to present a hardship situation, which we're not really in that category. So at this point, we had to cut the million and we're kind of happy with.
You're happy with what we got? Okay. I wasn't sure because I was just curious, like if.
Everything I've read about it, there are criteria for it. I haven't seen how people are supposed to get it. What I did see in the instructions for some of the districts that were cut severely is you would anticipate it in your revenue and you just kind of like plug that hole of what you think, and then you just move forward because people had to move forward. It was such a late time that I guess that's what those districts did. We did not put a plug number. Well, I don't want to call it plug. We didn't put a number in there like a placeholder for more aid because the formula was run. That's how it calculated out for us. We don't want to raise the taxes up to a higher percentage. We're staying where we are.
Okay.
Thank you.
My other question is, I know you said we're supposed to grow. You have the pupil number 2806, but from October to October, I mean, we're not anticipating being opened in October for preschool. So where's that growth coming from? Is more being able to.
It is preschool. Because what happens is, as we're doing the budget, you have to project what you think you're going to have for that year. So we anticipated everything has to match up. So when we submitted our projections for preschool back in November of last year, we projected for a larger capacity.
Right.
And everything that we've submitted so far reflects that larger capacity because we're hoping during that year that we will have that. So that's reflected in here. Otherwise, our enrollment otherwise is relatively flat. And the only increase we've really seen was the year that we went to full day kindergarten. And that's one of our larger classes. I can see it moving through the different grades. And it hasn't been as large since we did full day kindergarten. But the increase is mostly in the special ed area and in preschool.
And then I see the the budgetary per pupil cost goes down next year. Just by a little bit, but why is that?
I'm sorry, can you say, ask that again? Budgetary for people, what?
It's on this page, the budgetary comparative per pupil cost.
Yes.
Why does that go down next year?
Well, what you see there is there's different columns. So the ones that say actual, the 21, 22, 22,
Right.
23, that's actual and it's audited. Those are our final numbers and that's where it comes out. When you look at the original budget for 23, 24.
Oh, right,
where we
okay.
are, it's higher because we budget in such a way that we try to encompass everything that could happen. And in the end, it may not happen, so.
Goes down, right?
So then it'll come down. So it has, most of them are going down. If you look at the actual, it's usually less than the budgeted.
You always anticipate more than.
Yes.
And then my one final question, I know I've seen it the last few years of doing the administration building, I'm putting it on the sewer system.
Yes.
Why does that keep, I
Okay.
mean, that's a huge chunk of money you
It
just have
is.
sitting there that.
And it doesn't actually, it looks like it's sitting there, but it's really not. It keeps rolling back in.
No, I know, I understand that. I'm just
Well-
like, I don't know if people wonder why.
Well, here's what
we're not doing
happened.
anything with-
We had a hard time actually getting it off the ground. And now it is off the ground. And in fact, I really wish I could have done this, but I was contacted by our architect on Monday with a timeline and he wanted to go out to bid like this week. And I said, I can't put it on the agenda because we have an agenda cutoff of 5 days before the meeting. So I would have been able, because I didn't ask to be authorized to go out to bid and you have to do that. So I didn't want to add something to the agenda last minute because I thought it would raise too many questions in that aspect for that topic. And we can wait because we have a lot of summer projects. And so I talked to Clark about it and I said, and I talked to Dr. Hackett about it too, like, is this something that we need to put on this? Or can we wait till August? Oh, actually June. So on June, we'll have on the agenda to authorize me to go out to bid. And then we would award the bid in August. And we actually have enough things going on all summer that we're okay putting it off. But yeah, this is on septic here and it's been on septic, forever.
Right.
So it took a while to get to this point. Our architects had engineers design it.
I mean, do we need to, I mean, can we stay on septic or?
We definitely need it
Okay.
because we pump our septic out like once a
Right,
month.
right.
So we definitely need it. It just wasn't happening. The engineers drew the whole thing. They did all the paperwork for us to apply for it. And now we're ready to go out to bid. To me, I thought it was something that we didn't have to bid for. I thought we would be going through the township, but it turns out, no, we have to go out to bid. So I didn't know that piece of it. So yeah, we're at that stage where we're ready to go. So in June, you'll see a motion that says authorize business administrator to advertise. We'll advertise and we'll award it hopefully in August.
Okay. That'll be
Yeah, so
finally
that'll-
off.
That'll be, yeah, it'll be, because I think it's been on there for 3 years.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we looked into putting water here too, but that was cost prohibitive. So we're fine with the water. We need the sewer. Thank you.
Okay, closing public hearing. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing on the 2024-2025 budget?
So moved.
Second,
I'm a little slow here. Online voting is open. The motion unanimously passes.
Can I get a motion to adopt the final budget for the 2024-2025 school year and the resolution as shown on 5.6?
So moved.
second,
Online voting is open. The motion unanimously passes. Closing the voting. Thank you.
Thank you. Gonna move to interviews. We're going to move to the interviews for the board solicitor. I think the best way for this to occur is each of you can do your presentations. Then we'll have all but one step out. We do have a couple of questions. We're gonna ask the same questions of every law firm that have come from the board collectively. And then you'll each be able to answer, and then we're gonna go into executive session to discuss, and we'll come out and award the contract. Does that make sense? Awesome. Sure.
We're gonna do alphabetically.
Sure, will you call them?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to do this alphabetically. So if we could have the Comegno Law Firm come up to present, please. Thank you.
No, they'll leave when we ask questions.
Good evening.
Evening.
Yeah, sorry. My name is Taylor Relova. I'm a shareholder with the Comegno Law Group. I'm joined by my partner, Jeff Chase. Yes, ma'am. Sorry about that. Normally, I don't have a hard time being heard, but just a bit about myself. I am a disappointment to my parents. Both my parents were career educators, teachers, administrators in the state of New Jersey. They wanted me to be a teacher. They wanted me to work in education. I pushed back, and that wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do. I wanted to become an attorney, but I've compromised, and my entire career I've spent in education law with the Comegno Law Group. So my parents still do speak with me. But we're really pleased to be here on behalf of our firm. We are one of the largest education firms within the region. As of next week, we will have a dozen attorneys focusing our practice and our firm really exclusively on representing school districts. We represent over 85 school districts, public schools, private schools, charter schools, primarily within the state of New Jersey, but also into Pennsylvania as well. Our office is located in Morristown, just down a few minutes down 73 from here. We have a unique approach from our perspective to how we work with public school districts. And that is to really take a holistic approach, not just be reactive, not just be combative or litigious with our representation of school districts, but looking at things from a variety of angles, whether it be from helping develop best practices for individual school districts, taking a lead really within the state in terms of helping to develop best practices in numerous areas, whether it be from how school districts adapted to the COVID-19 crisis to our ongoing work dealing with special education and 504 programming with some of our colleagues who lecture nationally on that on a regular basis. So improving school districts, improving the supports for staff, working to do what we can to help districts improve efficiency. You know, as you well know here from hearing your budget presentation, although the governor claims that schools are fully funded under their formula, we all know the formula is broken. They're using a formula that existed prior to any caps in terms of revenue increases. They won't even tell us how the formula works. There's components of that formula that the Department of Education and the governor's office have refused to explain how they work, to the point where there were even Oprah requests and lawsuits filed. And the response we got from the state was, oh, that's proprietary, we can't tell you. But knowing that we work within that scheme, that we work with so many different districts across the state of varying sizes, from literally one building schools that are K-6 or K-8, all the way up to some of the largest regional districts within the state. We have experience in working with the unique needs that may face individual schools across a gamut of options, from construction, labor law, special education, student issues, governance for the board, those sort of things. Unfortunately, and increasingly, we've really assumed a role of helping school districts with public relations, because school districts have come under attack, or different things may go around online and people panic about them, and helping school districts with messaging to really communicate what schools are doing, what we're here for, reprioritizing and refocusing folks on what all you guys are here for as board members. You're not here for the large salaries. You're here because you're dedicated volunteers trying to make education better for our kids. So again, we approach things from a holistic perspective, not just everything is litigation, or that everything is aggressive, or that we only respond when something happens, but trying to get out ahead of the curve. So generally, that's the way we approach all aspects of what we do, whether it be, again, construction or contract issues, special education, or labor issues. So Jeff, you want to add in some things? I'll stand behind you so folks can see.
Every time, every single time. So Taylor pretty much covered what our firm does, our philosophy. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been practicing for over 20 years. Started out as a deputy attorney general, handling insurance fraud cases, handling labor and employment cases. Switched to a private sector firm, and have been with this firm for the last 11 years, strictly handling school law. My practice is, like I said, school law. I do a lot of labor and employment as well. But I think Taylor is right in saying we try to partner with the school districts to assist you. We're not here to honestly, to run up bills. That isn't our goal. Our goal is to give you efficient, prompt responses to put you in the best positions to succeed, and the students in the best positions to succeed. That's our goal. I know that I do that when I am speaking with clients, when I'm working with clients. It's to move you guys forward, to help and assist you guys. It's not just to, like Taylor said, to be litigious or to push some agenda. That is not what we do. But we're happy to answer any questions when that time comes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want us to step out now or wait?
I think
Section?
you can probably wait until we do that section.
Sounds good.
Thank you. The next firm is Gorman, Danella, and Morlock.
Bring that down. Every time I follow Taylor, I have to do that. So good evening, everybody. It's nice to see everyone. Thank you for taking the time on what I know is a busy and heavy agenda to allow us to tell you a little bit about ourselves. For those of you who I've never met, my name is Alicia Danella. I am a partner with Gorman, Danella, Morlock. I'm here with my partner, Bill Morlock. I had the privilege of working with many of you when I was at my former firm. And then some of you may know in January, we split off and we started our own firm. And I won't reiterate our credentials that we put in the proposal. I will just say that although our firm is young, we are not. We have all been practicing for 15 years as practicing attorneys, the vast majority of which representing public education. And for myself personally, many of those years was with the two gentlemen, I'll say, good friends of mine from my time at Comegna, who I had the privilege of working with for many years. So like I said, we're not going to reiterate our credentials. I just like to share a little bit about our philosophy and the commitments that we make to our clients when we represent boards of education. The first thing that we like to say is one of our North Stars here is the respect for the work that you do and the importance of public education. That is the guiding light in everything that we do. Our job is to move things out of the way so that your administrators, the board, and your teachers can get to the work of educating students. We do not lose sight of the fact that public education is the original equity measure. Before it became in vogue to talk about that, the work that you folks do every day and that your staff does every day is the work of equity in educating children. And the importance of that to your community and beyond can't be understated, and we do not lose sight of that. It gives us a great deal of satisfaction in our work and in our careers, and I know that there's enough lawyers up here on the dais to know that that is not always easy to find in your legal career. The second commitment that we make to our clients is responsiveness. And what that means to us is not just that you can reach us 24 hours a day, although you can, because I can tell you when I get calls from folks like Dr. Hackett or Helen off hours, it's because something real is happening. These folks know what they're doing. They don't call with easy questions. They call with complicated problems, and representing public school districts is an exercise in problem solving. We might not have the answer off the bat, but when my clients hang up the phone, they have a next step. They know the next right thing to do, and we take it one step at a time. Because every day in this realm, and one of the things that's fascinating about it are the novel issues that come up every day. There are new problems, new laws, new regulations, and we're here to help you through them. But part of what we do is we make sure that when you get off the phone with us, your administrators, your board president, your staff, they will know the next thing to do. And finally, and I don't think that the importance of this can be understated, representing boards of education is not a one-size-fits-all proposition. I'm not here to tell you the kind of lawyer that you need. I'm here to be the kind of lawyer that you tell me the board needs. Every board of education is as unique as the community that it serves and the children that it educates. And it's our job to get to know you, to help you articulate the goals of your district and of this particular board, whether it's your board norms, your aspirations for the district, any of that. We're here to help you articulate it, and we're here to serve that purpose. There's so many regulations involving school districts. We want to clear obstacles out of the way, and we want to help you get where you want to be and make sure that you're continuing to communicate to your community the excellence that happens in this district every single day. I'm here with my colleague, Bill. I'm going to let him introduce himself, and then of course, we're happy to answer any questions.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. I want to really focus on my specialty and what I would bring to the board. Alicia has reviewed what we do as a firm. My specialty, as unfortunately Dr. Hackett knows from other employment, is litigation, right? If you need a litigator, I'm your guy. I also focus on special education, which is really a two-part process. Part one is being an advisor and a resource for the district pre-litigation. And that's the old lifeguard idea that, right, if they're drowning, it's too late. We have to monitor stuff pre-litigation to make sure it doesn't go to litigation. Step two is litigation when I become an aggressive advocate. So talking about step one, that's where I'll attend IEP meetings where parents have counsel. I might review independent evaluations and offer general advice on the IDEA, 504, ADA, really anything in that special education realm. For Voorhees in particular, I know from Alicia and my partner, Brett Gorman, that Dr. Alegria is very competent, knows what she's doing. So here in Voorhees, it might just be providing really specific legal opinions on difficult issues. Voorhees is a large district and it's diverse. So part of what my job is to make sure you guys are bringing equity in special education. And I have to be an advocate for your in-district programming. You have a lot of special education programming, and it's important that if it is appropriate for our students, that they're sent there. And that's because if I'm not thinking about the budget, which you guys dealt with tonight, when we're talking about special education placements, I'm not doing my job. A single student who goes to an out-of-district placement with transportation and supports, it could very well and will likely cost over $1 million for that student over the course of their time in Voorhees. Of course, if that student has to be sent there, absolutely, that's fine. We're going to do it. But if we make it a policy and we don't consider finances, things can go south very quickly when we have a budget hearing like we did tonight. Moving on to litigation, especially for special education, but really anything that I do in litigation, that's when I become a fighter. My sole job is to win and to win for the district. Obviously, if the chance comes that we can resolve a case for something that makes sense for everybody in this room, we'll do that. But it's a very different person when we get to litigation. Along with special education, I also litigate things such as residency cases, homelessness matters, defend ethics complaints, deal with tenure charges, those sorts of things. I want to thank everybody for their time, and I look forward to answering any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Next firm is Parker McKay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Guerin. As I hope you know, since I am currently your solicitor and I sit up there with you, and I am an attorney at Parker McKay. Parker McKay has been your solicitor for a few years now, so I know you know about the firm. I know you know that we have many attorneys with many specialties that can serve you in many different ways. I want to tell you a little bit about myself, and also point out some of the things that we have been through together in our short time since I became your regular solicitor. I am a firm believer in that I need my work to speak for itself. So in just the past few months, let me remind you that we have been through a few tumultuous meetings. We've had to deal with some unwanted press. We've had to deal with some surprise resignations. We've had to deal with conflicts. These are all actual problems that we have worked through together as a team and solved in just the past few months. My background is diverse, but very heavy in education. I am actually, this month marks my 19th year in the practice of law. And almost that entire time has been spent working with school districts and school boards. When I was in private practice in Pennsylvania, I actually sat on a board of education in the state of New Jersey. It was Burlington Township. I will tell you that was during the Christie administration when all the funding was frozen and cut mid-year. I understand what it is like to sit in your seat and have to have difficult conversations about school resources and how to meet our legal obligations to students in difficult situations. I did it. It was very unpleasant, rewarding ultimately, but not a place where we like to be. So I appreciate the work that you do. In my prior life, while I was working my way through law school, I actually worked for the School District of Philadelphia, both as a spokesperson dealing with problems on a day-to-day basis, which is, I think, is some experience you've already drawn upon in the past couple of months, and as a policy director for what was then known as the School Reform Commission, which essentially was a state takeover of the school district. So I understand and appreciate the policy process and the way you approach your work. It is my job as your attorney to facilitate that conversation. Your goals are my goals. I want to help to find you options to get you where it is you need to be. I see that as my job. Now, I don't manufacture solutions. I think you have seen in my time with you that I am firm but professional and very honest about what your options are and what you can do and maybe what you can't do. But that is my approach. So that was just not a full view of everything we have been through together in the last couple of months, but just a reminder that the work is getting done and the work I believe is getting done well. So I also told you about my background. Let me talk about some of the bigger work that we do. Make no mistake about it, the board is the client. I work for the board, but the reality of my day-to-day is that I also work with your district. Helen Haley and Dr. Hackett are task masters. We have made it a practice to have weekly telephone calls, actually weekly video conferences, where we walk through every legal issue that, well, the majority of legal issues that the school district is going through and problem solving how it is we are going to fix them. It is everything from your labor problems to your ironing out disagreements with your education association, of course, with the assistance of Frank Cavallo, who works as your labor counsel, to talking about individual student issues, interactive process meetings, contemplating discipline. My time in Voorhees has run the gamut. Helen has already taken advantage of the depth of experience that Parker McKay brings you beyond the school law department. In just the past 4 months, I can name Alexis Smith, Matthew Arnold, Rick Hunt, Young Yoon, and Jeff Winitsky, 5 attorneys, and George Morris, 6 attorneys in our practice with specialties that have been serving Voorhees, names that you probably have never even heard of. That's our public finance department, that's our construction department, that's our procurement department, that's our statewide Oprah expert, and that is our expert that deals with planning boards. When you have Parker McKay, you have access to all of those resources. And I don't pretend to know all the answers. When Helen or Dr. Hackett come to me, I'm able to lean on those resources to bring you the best legal advice possible. But I do bring my own elements. I do have something to share. And I think that plays out when I come to these board meetings and I work closely with your board president and increasingly your vice president to work through your day-to-day issues of governance. Because I want you to succeed and I like to see myself as part of your team to help you get where it is you want to be. I am grateful for the opportunity to speak tonight and happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you all for 3 very thoughtful and informative presentations. We greatly appreciate the time and energy that it took to put those together. We're going to go in the same order. I'm going to, do we have someone that will show them? Okay, perfect. So Trisha's going to show you, Mrs. Milady will show you to another room and we will have the first set of questions. We will call you in one at a time. Thank you so much. Oh, I should pull up my questions. Okay. I think we can start. Okay, this is collectively from the entire board, but to try and streamline the process and be as efficient as possible, I'm just going to ask all of the questions. First, please define who your client is specifically as it relates to board members, superintendent, and other administrators. How do you manage conflicts that arise between those entities, including the control and flow of information when such a conflict is present? Sorry, it's a compound question,
Sure.
but
I was going to object, actually.
yeah, I know.
If I may, sorry. Conflicts do arise. We recognize that conflicts sometimes arise between the board and the superintendent, and it's a very difficult position for us. I mean, it is. Obviously, our regular contact is with the superintendent. That's just a fact. It's just what happens. But our client's the board, and we always remind administration, the public, whomever it is, the board is our client. So at the end of the day, we have to do what's in the best interest of the board and the board as a whole, not just board members, but the board as a whole. In fact, when there are board member specific issues, we have to remind the board members we represent the board, not them individually. And I think that's an important distinction because sometimes that gets lost. You know, ethics charges may happen. They could happen for a reason or for no good reason, but they may happen. And there are times that we have to make decisions on whether there are conflicts or not. That's our obligation. That's our ethical obligation to make decisions on who we can represent and how we can represent them. And we take that very seriously. I mean, we're not, look, at the end of the day, I tell people, I'm not putting my license at risk. It's just not going to happen. But it is a balancing act sometimes. So but we keep in mind at all times that the board is our client.
And one more thing to dovetail into that. In dealing with interactions with administration, with board members, with individual board members, with board members as a whole, we actually have a lot of guidance here in the state of New Jersey, whether we like it or not. You have the School Ethics Act, which defines what the roles are of the administration, of the board, and the different powers and authorities that are divided amongst them. We also have the unique resource that the board or any individual member of the board can ask if there is something that's unclear, can ask for guidance from the School Ethics Commission. You can get an advisory opinion. So not only can you look at what the law is, and you have the 10 tenets of the School Ethics Act that I'm sure our veteran board members can probably recite by heart from all your annual trainings on it and your review of it, but there's a lot of decisions that interpret that. And there are always novel issues that come up. And in those areas where things may not be clear, is there a conflict? Is there not? We can get affirmative guidance directly from the School Ethics Commission to help clear any of those things up.
Thank you. Given your definition of client, how do you approach and correct board members who violate the Ethics Act or breach confidentiality or abuse their power and scope as a board member?
So it really depends on what the situation is. There's never a situation like this that's always the same. And we approach this type of situation as we would with many other things that may come up and treat it as its own unique situation. We always try to gently guide our boards. We don't want to be too aggressive with an individual member or a board as a whole, but remind folks of their ethical responsibilities, of their ethical obligations. If things start to become more difficult or strained, there are avenues to deal with that. And we've been through, Jeff and I ourselves, our firm as a whole for many years, in working with boards of all different types and shapes and makeups. We have boards where everybody gets along and the meeting is over in 10 minutes. We have boards that will argue with each other for 2 hours at every single meeting. And it really depends on how things come up and where they come up. Certainly things like that can come up at public meetings. And it's our job to monitor risk and make sure the board is compliant. Our client is compliant. So if something like that comes up, we'll remind the board as a whole. We'll may remind an individual board member of their responsibilities, their ethical obligations. We also provide trainings to the majority of our school districts that ask for it, certainly, but we make it available to all of our school districts on a yearly basis. Here is what the School Ethics Act is, and then we color that in by giving them guidance. Here's what some of the situations that have come up. Here's where, there's been issues where board members got into trouble, or boards as a whole got into trouble, or there was conflict between administration and the board and how that was handled. So there's a variety of different ways we can respond to it. But again, it's always sort of reminding our clients in any sort of situation, what's compliant and where your risks are, and trying to navigate through that.
Yeah.
If I could just add to that quickly, and Taylor gave a great answer. I'm going to be a little more specific when in dealing with some of these circumstances. When there is an ethical issue that arises, the first thing we do is we will inform the board president that there is a concern and take our lead from the board president if we reach out to that board member. Regardless, we're going to put something in writing to the board president to explain this is the situation. How do you want us to handle it? Do you want us to speak to the board member? Do you want us to address it with the board member? Do you want to forward this to the board member? However you want to approach it. But we are going to give you that guidance so you are aware this is the situation. But our advice is always going to be to tell that board member that this is an ethical issue and address that issue so you can avoid ethics charges.
Thank you. What do you believe the main duties are of a board solicitor? And please describe the scope of your role.
I think one of the major components of what we do for any of our school clients is to identify risk and advise on how to handle that risk and move forward. And that risk can come in all sorts of different forms, whether it is new regulations or new legislation has been passed, how to deal with that, how to make sure that we're compliant. Here's areas where there might be risk of us not being compliant, whether that's going to be in a special education situation where a director of special services may call us and say, look, we have this situation developing, what should we do? And it's to identify the risk and figure out what the plan is to address it, whether it is to make some changes or recommend some things to move things towards compliance, or whether it is to say, you know what, no, we are righteous here. What we're doing is the right thing. We are compliant and we're going to push back. But again, as Jeff stressed, we serve at the pleasure of the board. We serve at the pleasure of the district. So our job is to say, here's what the law is. Here's what your risks are. Here's what your strengths are. Here's some recommendations. We give you that information. You tell us the direction you want to go in. And then we take that direction from the board, working with the administration, and we follow through with that. Whether that is working on things from a policy angle, whether that's working on things with the public, whether that ultimately goes to litigation. And zealously representing the board whether it be on the defensive or at times when we need to go on the offensive, where the board needs to assert claims, where the district needs to assert its rights and point out what we're doing is right, defend our staff, defend our board, defend our district, and make sure that everybody's eyes wide open to the entire process.
And if I may, I agree with everything Taylor said. I would just say a large chunk of what we do, I wouldn't say it's everything we do, but we are problem solvers, whether that is proactively or reactively. I mean, sometimes we're going to get calls and we're going to have to be reactive. Ideally, we would be proactive, but generally the questions that we're getting, the services we're providing is solving problems, whether that's even with litigation. That litigation is an issue that arises, that it's a problem that has to be addressed. There's some disagreement somewhere. Our job is to represent you, to solve that problem, whether that's following through with litigation or saying, you know what, we should settle this case. It can be a variety of ways to deal with things. And being creative and coming up with solutions is a big part of that. And I do think we do a very good job of being creative in that space. But I would say a large chunk of what we do is just doing that problem solving.
What is an emerging legal trend that you feel will impact the school education in the next few years? And how are you educating and preparing school boards in advance?
Why don't you take this one so you don't have to come in afterwards?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, look, I do think, well, I just saw from a labor perspective, I don't know where it's going to go. But apparently, federal government has said non-competes are no longer a thing. I'm sure some of you have seen that. I don't know how that's constitutional, but that would certainly have some impact going forward. You know, one of the trends that I'm seeing, and it's going to be impactful, and I'm going to stick with labor for a second, and I'm trying to guide folks in this respect, is going to be health benefits. Health benefits, because the last, how many years now? Since Chapter 44, we haven't really been able to negotiate health benefits. We're seeing that now is going to, in January 1st of 2028, we're going to be able to do that. So we're preparing for that now. We're preparing to deal with that because it's going to be ways for school districts to partner with the associations and both sides save some money and do something that is beneficial to both groups. So I think that's something you're going to see in the next couple of years that I think people are kind of losing sight of, even though it's right there in front of them. That's going to be a big issue in a couple of years.
I think, you know, one overarching thing that all school districts in the state of New Jersey are faced with, regardless of however the funding formula has treated them, is being asked to do more with less, consistently being asked to do more with less. And that can come in many different forms, but we work with districts every day on coming up with solutions, whether it's looking to program development, whether it's looking to trying to reduce special education costs by bringing out of district students back, or limiting exposure, whether it is you know, supporting our teachers with professional development and better programming and those sort of things to be ahead of the curve, making sure that the board is aware of issues that may come, monitoring legislation, monitoring trends, you know, within social media, unfortunately. Just looking at all those sort of things that school districts are now expected to pivot and respond to, and who knows what the next legislation session is going to come up with. You know, is there going to be something that's the new HIB that comes along that somebody in Trenton thought was a great idea? Perhaps, but being able to assist districts to pivot with that sort of thing, but also being mindful of, you're not getting all sorts of increases in state aid. There's not magic money that's coming to any school district, whether they're quote fully funded or not. So also working with schools to maximize efficiency. From our perspective as working as board attorneys, we're also very mindful of our costs. So we very regularly partner with our school districts to support events within the district, and even coming down to our monthly bills. looking at our bills, making sure that we are offering discounts, that we are offering courtesy discounts, that we are looking at things where we may have to go to trial and have 2 attorneys, but making sure that the board is not paying for that the board is not paying for double representation, even though you're getting it. So being mindful of what our role is within that, do more with less is also an important function.
Can I just jump in one more? Sorry, I apologize.
You can
The
cut
one-
him off.
Yeah, and I like to go last. And I can't believe I didn't mention this, but it also falls into the labor realm. It's going to be attracting teachers. That is a huge issue right now. It's something that we're dealing with. We've been creative in certain districts with trying to attract student teachers through some sort of stipend program and things of that nature, which has a pretty novel idea that we've, knock on wood, I think we've in these districts have been pretty successful with. It's kind of an exciting proposition, but that's going to be one of the things, especially when you're, and I say labor because that's what we're seeing is having a contract, having a salary guide, quite honestly, in place that's going to attract teachers. You're in competition now. It wasn't like it was 5 years ago, where you had just tons and tons of resumes. You have to find ways to attract, and we do try to work with school districts to find those ways, obviously, in conjunction with the association.
All right, 2 more questions. Maybe we'll try and have concise answers. Okay. How do you perceive the role of elected school board members in oversight, governance, and policy generation?
So again, you can look to the Ethics Act for guidance on how all of that works. But generally, the board is the policymaking and governing body of the district. And by working at that policy level, that's how the board can really move the district in different directions. So working at that level and then making sure that you have good working relationships with your administration, who are the boots on the ground to implement that. Because school board members, you're not allowed to go into the building and make sure this is happening or that's happening. But working with administrators that you can trust to take your policy vision and your policy directives and the input that you provide your administration and make that a reality with boots on the ground every day.
I wasn't sure. Last question. What is one specific characteristic that sets your firm apart from your competitors? You had the benefit of hearing their presentations. Why do you think that you're unique?
We're unique in terms of our, yeah, we are. I am probably the tallest school lawyer in the state. But aside from that, it's really our depth of experience. Our firm has, and individuals within our firm, we have been working with school districts. Some school district relationships we have stretch back 30 years. And by that depth of experience, the number of professionals that we have, as I said, we have one of the largest education-focused firms, but full gamut of services anywhere in the region. We're able to bring that collective experience that we have to all of our clients. So not everything is reinventing the wheel. There's always going to be novel issues and novel situations that come up, but by virtue of the fact that we work with such a diverse client base of schools, we have developed ways to work with problems, analyze problems, or we may have just seen that same exact problem 2 weeks ago in a school district down the road and have already done the legwork there and then can provide that experience and that depth of knowledge to a school district client. So it's really, it's our professionalism, our professionals, and our depth of experience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We're headed out this door.
Yes, you're gonna swap out. Yes, that would be great. I think Trish is also grabbing her. Yeah, thank you. No, yeah. for 3 days. Yes, please.
Everyone.
Hello. Okay, we have a couple of questions. We will ask that you give brief answers, unless everybody wants to be here until 10. Okay, so I'll jump right in. These are the collective board's questions. I'm just to streamline the process. I'm asking all of the questions, but they come from all of the board members. Please define who your client is specifically as it relates to board members, superintendent, and other administrators. How do you manage conflicts that arise between those entities, including the control and flow of information when such a conflict is present? Not all of them are that compound, but we'll start there.
So I think, I forget Bill said it, but our client legally is the Board of Education. Now, the superintendent is a statutory member of the Board of Education, and practically speaking, the administrators run the district. So it's pretty clear who our client is, right? We don't personally represent any individual board member or any individual administrator. The Board of Education is the only legal entity, right? The district's not a legal entity. We represent the board. So it's clear to us who our client is. Now, obviously, right, there's some nuance in that because the superintendent runs the district, is responsible for the day-to-day operations, and I would say at least 50%, if not more, of the daily legal needs and the questions come through the high-level administrators, whether it's your director, your superintendent, or your business administrator. With respect to the flow of information, you know, a lot of that is what the board's expectations are and what board norms you guys have established for yourself or are trying to establish for yourself. I think the board always needs the information, the underlying information to make a decision. And we always encourage board members to ask themselves, when they're seeking additional information, what question are you being asked or what decision do you have to make that requires this information, right? And you guys have heard me talk about ethics before. It's not a bright line in terms of when you bleed over into administration and what's within the board's purview. So to the extent that communication can be open and consistent, we think that's important because it makes it easier for you guys to do your job. But there's always going to be some stuff, some of the nitty gritty that isn't necessary for the high level decisions that you guys have to make, or for confidentiality reasons, you're not always going to get all the nitty gritty.
Thank you. Given your definition of client, how do you approach and correct board members who violate the Code of Ethics or the Ethics Act, breach confidentiality, or abuse their power and scope as a board member?
I'll let Bill answer in a second, but I feel strongly about this one. So listen, I think that obviously access to counsel is primarily through the superintendent, the board president, right, and administrators. However, I think sometimes access to counsel is in and of itself professional development. And again, you guys have heard me talk about ethics. I don't think that the Code of Ethics, which defines your roles as a board member, is necessarily intuitive. It's inherently situational, and it's legislated. It's telling you what your role is. There are things that you can do in all good faith that might seem that absolutely are done in good faith that might cross the line. So your obligation is to ask yourself questions, and if you're not sure, to then ask someone to get you in touch with counsel. So to the extent that there are issues with board members, what I generally recommend is giving them an opportunity to speak to counsel. We don't publicly humiliate people. We don't call people out publicly. You know, we take everyone at their word that they're here in good faith and trying to do the best that they can, that they believe they're doing for their community. So in that, you know, we do our best to view these as to view those situations as opportunities for professional development, not only on what your role is, but the consequences for stepping outside of that. Just so I'm not stepping up, Bill, is there anything you want to add?
I'll wait for another one.
Okay, all right. I'll give him the next one.
All right, thank you. What do you believe are the main duties? What do you believe the main duties are of a board solicitor? And please describe the scope of your role.
I don't think we have a main duty, or I think our scope is large. I think it's anything that a board or an administrator or a district needs from an attorney. It's our job to either give it to you or point you in the right direction and set you up with the folks that you need to get that answer. I think between all the presentations you heard, right, there's a lot of things that attorneys do for boards, whether it's attend a board meeting, litigate, right, answer Oprah questions, sue the state over your budget. Our job is to do all of that. And like Alicia said in the initial presentation, our job is to be who you need us to be on that day, on your board, in every moment, because different situations arise where you need a fierce litigator or you need somebody that can massage a situation.
Thank you. What is an emerging legal trend that will impact school education in the next few years? And how are you educating or preparing school boards in advance?
That's a great question. Do you have anything in particular you want to jump in or you want me to?
You can go.
Okay.
Special ed stuff, but.
Oh, so do you want to talk about, because I know that there's special ed stuff. So,
Yeah.
well, good, you start.
I think coming out of the pandemic, I was very fearful that school boards would see a huge increase in litigation. There was legislation that there was a time period where pretty much anybody could go back and ask for compensatory education. I have an 8-year-old who was in school during the pandemic while preschool. So I know as well as you all do, if you have kids or kids in the family, it wasn't perfect for everybody. I think we all know that. I thought we were going to see a million lawsuits. We didn't. I'm very thankful about that. We are seeing an uptick in special ed litigation. And I think that it's really important that we're reviewing everything in terms of IEPs, what we're offering, what we're doing, so that we can avoid getting litigation. I mean, the OAL is busier than it's ever been.
And I'll just add, my response would be similar to that. I think coming out of the pandemic, what we're seeing is a vacuum in resilience, both in students and in staff, in parents and people generally. And the legal trend that flows from that is myriad. You know, whether it's an increase in special education, whether it's staff shortages, you know, lack of pipeline of educators, particularly, you know, educators that represent your community. That has always been difficult, but just filling positions in certain subjects is difficult right now. I think that that's a direct result. It was building before the pandemic, but early retirements and all of that, I think, are contributing to that increase in discipline referrals, the ways that we have to approach situations with parents and students, you know, and so the way that we counsel that we counsel clients on that is given that landscape, our approach is de-escalation. Is this the hill to die on? Is this the fight to fight, right? How do we offer grace? How do we keep things from sucking all the air out of the room when we know that there is this larger problem driving it? And what are we doing to treat that underlying problem? Because the legal ramifications are a symptom.
Thank you. 2 more. How do you perceive the role of elected school board members in oversight, governance, and policy generation?
I think that within the question lies the answer. And it sounds like this board, who I have not worked with prior, like Alicia, understands that based upon the question. So general governance, policy, that is your role. Day-to-day operations are for Dr. Hackett and her team. And a lot of what we do in our ethics training and a lot of what I do in ethics litigation when I defend ethics matter is define that role for boards. And so really the answer is in the question. It's general governance, large policy, things like setting the budget. And then you leave it in their hands of your very capable administrators to get the job done.
And the one thing I would add to that is I view board members as a resource, right? You guys are reflective of the community. You know what the community wants. So you're a conduit, right? You help the administrators, whether or not they live in the community, you know, sort of take the temperature, understand the temperature of the community. And, you know, obviously there are limits to the role, but as a resource, it's also important to use it wisely. And what I always say is once you step over that role, once you step over into administration, that's not the best use of this resource. There's a lot you guys can do as a board without stepping over into the jobs that you pay very capable people to do.
Thank you. You had the benefit of hearing the other proposals. What is one specific characteristic that sets your firm apart from your competitors?
So I'll take this because I've had the privilege of working for both of those firms. So I worked with the folks at Comegno for 7.5 years. I worked at Parker McKay for 2.5 years. This is a small area of practice. It's very niche. We know each other. You know what I mean? There's no bad blood. You know, there's no ill will. What I think sets us apart, you know, I've had the benefit of learning from those folks, right? I've learned from Taylor's office was next to mine when I first started. You know, I talk to Jeff regularly. He's a good friend. I learned from Frank, I worked with Amy. So, we all know the black and white. What sets us apart is how we deal with everything else, which is more than 50% of what you guys do. It's the way that you do it, right? How responsive are you? Do you take the time to know what your client needs? Do you take the time to listen, right? Or do you immediately start to answer questions before they're asked? And I'll say it again, I love this practice area. Bill, Brett, and I, we're super enthusiastic about this and about the mission that you guys have here, educating students. We never lose sight of that. Everything you do is in service to that. Our job is to move things out of your way so that you can focus on the mission. Everyone has a different approach. I said to you, every board is as different as the students, as the community. Not every lawyer is for every board. You need to find someone who articulates things the way that in a way that you can understand it. I think we all aspired, I'll say personally, I aspire to articulate the law the way Helen articulates the budget. In a very understandable, intelligent way without sounding too technical. So we're all working on that. That's what we all aspire to do. But you need someone who you can trust. You need someone who understands and meets your needs and not just, the needs of school boards generally.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We will have you guys go back into the room and we'll send in the last firm and then we will move into executive session. Thank you so much. Yeah, I should have said that the last time. It hurts you when you go on and on and on. We've lost a lot of teachers. I work for the district, then to have something in my contract that says I can't go. That doesn't exist in school. So I thought that was weird. I've never heard of that. Yeah. It's very common in like my company. Yeah, so like you can't come work at Novartis. I don't want you to go to Bristol Myers. Yeah. Hello. So, thank you. I'm sorry it's taken longer than we expected, but
Take your time.
we're getting good answers. If you could provide concise and focused responses we have several. These are the collective board's questions.
Okay.
But to streamline the process, I am asking all of them.
Okay,
But they are representative of all of the questions that the board would like answers to.
very good.
Okay, so please define who your client is specifically as it relates to board members, superintendent, and other administrators. How do you manage conflicts that arise between those entities, including the control and flow of information when such a conflict is present?
Well, I think first of all, it's very clear that my responsibility is that I work for the board. I report to the board. So when there is a conflict between the board and administration, I will always fall on the side of the board to represent the board. And I can advise in getting conflict counsel if it's a personnel matter. Typically, administrators are part of an association where they can get their own counsel. So we work it out that way. It is difficult, and I have been put in that position over the course of my career where there has been acrimony between the board and the superintendent, and superintendents have asked me for advice or insight, and I can't. I have a duty of confidentiality with you. My conversations with you are privileged. Now, things are always a lot easier when the board and the superintendent are on the same page and we can work together. Obviously, then the information flow is free, and we can work collaboratively, and that's the ideal way for the work to flow. The reality is in most of the time when I am doing day-to-day legal work, I am working with superintendents. I do have contact with board presidents, to a lesser degree, board vice presidents. And I provide legal advice to them, but it is always, as a percentage of my time spent working, it is always a lower percentage than what I am spending with the administration working on day-to-day issues. But I am very conscious because it has come up in my career and I have had to walk a fine line. It is very clear to me, the board is my client and will always be my client.
Thank you. Given your definition of client, how do you approach and correct board members who violate the code of ethics, breach confidentiality, or abuse their power and scope as board members?
So a lot of this is client by client. I am authorized by regulation to speak with 3 people. Essentially, I speak with board presidents, superintendents, and business administrators. If we are dealing with a board level issue, I am probably going to be in primary contact with the board president to talk about what the issue or the concern is. And from there, you have to map out a game plan. And it depends on the preference of the board president, how they want to approach the member who is in violation. Now, interestingly enough, and I know I had shared this with Ms. Watson at one point in time, there was a disciplinary decision, not a school ethics decision, but an attorney disciplinary board decision, reprimanding and taking some penalties against an attorney who gave advice to a board president that was against a sitting school board member. In the last week, that decision was overturned by the Supreme Court. No opinion, no rationale, no background, just overturned and all the discipline dismissed. So I take that as a green light to continue to do what I think is in the best interest of the board, which is if I see a member that is not conducting themselves appropriately, I have a conversation with the board president and I game plan how we are going to address it. Does the board president want to address it? Do they want me to script them? Would you prefer we have a 3-way conversation and I be deliver the information? Or would you prefer I have a one-on-one sidebar with that member to discuss with them, you know, this is the conduct you're engaging in. It doesn't need to be confrontational. As a matter of fact, I prefer that it be collaborative because my role as a counselor and advisor is to facilitate you doing your job to the best of your ability. I'm not doing your job for you. I want to be there as a support. Obviously, it is the individual sitting board member's decision whether or not to take my advice. I cannot force or compel them to take my advice. And if it gets into the realm of an ethics violation, I will advise the board president of what other options they have when it comes to ethics violations. I consider that within the scope of my responsibility. And now that the disciplinary decision was overturned in that one particular case I just referenced, to me, that is an endorsement of that approach.
Thank you. What do you believe the main duties are of a board solicitor? And please describe the scope of your role.
So the scope of my role is different for different clients. And I will give an example. There is a board I represent where I am asked to come to board meetings for the sole purpose of making sure the meeting is conducted appropriately. There are some rogue board members who do not follow the rules about micromanaging administration. So I'm essentially, I go to the meeting to stop it. That's not an ideal role. That's not legal advice, but that is facilitation. I think at the end of the day, my role is to be an advisor. You have certain goals. You want to accomplish those goals. I give you legal advice and a pathway to accomplish those goals. Sometimes there is no pathway, and I have to tell you that. I have to say there is no legal way to accomplish what it is you want to accomplish. But if there is a legal way, I'm going to find it for you. And I want to provide that advice to facilitate you doing your job. That is essentially the scope of an attorney, to provide legal advice. But the practical thing is when you're working with public entities and public institutions, I give a lot of what I call legally tangential advice. It kind of touches the law, but maybe it's not theoretically, technically 100% legal advice, right? And that is, how do you respond to reporter questions without saying something legally inappropriate? How do you approach a board member who is perhaps doing something that violates the ethics law? How do you facilitate communication between the board and the superintendent when that communication becomes strained? All of those things have legal components to them, but they're kind of, like I said, legally tangent or tangential. I view that to the extent the board wants that advice, I am available to give it and very willing to.
Thank you. What is an emerging legal trend that will impact school education in the next few years, and how are you educating and preparing school boards in advance?
That's interesting that you asked that. I just, a brainchild of mine that Parker McKay is doing is our school law summer seminar series. And Dr. Hackett, if you don't have the email yet, you probably will get it any day now. And that is where we're going to take the summer months, the month of July in particular, and the first week of August, to invite in clients to talk about particular legal issues. And in this summer seminars, the first bit is about investigations and the changing landscape of investigations. The second seminar I'm giving is on FMLA, ADA, and the interplay of sick leave, which I actually think is a very big emerging trend that's going to impact how you staff your schools. And then there's going to be a special education update that we have a number of, or a couple of special education specialists at Parker McKay who will be giving that. I think New Jersey is an employee-friendly state. We all know that. I don't think that's any secret. But what we have coming out every 1 to 2 to 3 years is some major legislation that affects employees' rights, that very much, I don't want to say limits administration, but complicates the employment landscape for administration. The new sick leave law is one example of that. The new sick leave law made it possible for employees to use their sick leave for a myriad of issues where you normally could not, such as caring for, as a matter of law, sick leave used to be only for the employee's own personal illness. And now it is your personal illness, your child's illness, a related family member's illness, bereavement leave, school meetings, and a host of other issues. That, while it may be good for employees, and I can understand the legislative intent by making that kind of move, it complicates staffing issues for schools significantly. The interplay of the sick law with FMLA and ADA, and I'm referencing the Americans with Disabilities Act, where leaves of absence are a reasonable accommodation you are legally required to give, it's a very complicated field. This is a time, and we've seen it since COVID, where a lot of people have left the teaching profession. Finding qualified individuals is difficult. School districts are recruiting from other school districts, not to hire at the bottom of the salary guide, but they're hiring people at steps 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, because they need to fill positions. Dealing with these new leave of absence laws and these new sick leave laws in an environment where you already have a teaching shortage, you have trouble getting substitutes, you can't get bodies in classrooms, is a challenge. So one of the goals of my seminar series that we're putting on is to educate school districts about how to navigate these laws and try to best manage their human resources allocations.
Thank you. 2 more. How do you perceive the role of elected school board members in oversight, governance, and policy generation?
Well, oversight, governance, and policy generation is your job. It's what you are supposed to be doing. It's the day-to-day administration of schools you are not doing. Your job is also to work in collaboration with your administrators. They are your think tank when it comes to doing your job. So for example, in policy administration, you get these, I know you subscribe to Strauss ESME, you get these Strauss ESME updates. Some of it is sort of routine mandated legal language, changes here or there. Not a lot to discuss, not a lot to talk about, but every once in a while they come up with a major overhaul of policy, which administration should be looking at first and saying, this is how this policy change is going to impact our school district. But you as a governing body are responsible for developing that policy and asking questions of administration about how you can tweak it. You don't have to accept what people put in front of you. You can have conversation around how to shape it, how to tweak it, how to make it better. It's called policy governance. I don't really, I think, for me personally, not as a legal advice, but as a board member in both public sector and on nonprofits, I think policy governance is an approach. I don't see them as separate things, they're intertwined. You govern by questioning and developing and implementing policy, and then asking for periodic updates. We had a policy, it's been 6 months, it's been 12 months, it's been 18 months. How's it working? You know, do we need to change? It's not about badgering your administration every couple of days or every couple of weeks for updates. It's about having a well thought out plan for overseeing the implementation of policy and understanding how well it's working so you could tweak it again in the future. If the administration's job is to be on top of things, reacting day to day as issues come up, yours is to step back and to think bigger picture and to think as a governing body, what is the direction you want your district to go, and what policy can you come up with or create that creates a pathway for that objective.
Thank you. And last question, you had the benefit of hearing the other presentations. What specific characteristics sets your firm apart from your competitors?
Quite frankly, it's the depth of services you get at Parker McKay. With all due respect to the other firms, they have accomplished attorneys on them. I'm not going to disparage another firm. I don't think that reflects well on anybody. But what I will say is what Parker McKay brings to the table is a statewide recognized expert on Oprah, a highly experienced construction department, an expert in real estate that just help you purchase a building, an expert in zoning and planning, working with planning boards that just help you get approval for your preschool. Public financing people that just help you with a contract that might be on the agenda tonight, in fact. They don't offer that depth. These are experts you don't even have to know exist. You may not know exist. You may not even know that we are drawing upon their expertise. But this is what Parker McKay brings you. We have a dedicated school law department of, I think we're at 8 attorneys, 6 to 7, 8 attorneys, somewhere in there. We have special ed experts. We do all the school law stuff you would expect of a school law firm. I do it personally with a heavy emphasis on labor and employment. My colleagues also do it, and we've got dedicated special education personnel. Other firms may have expertise as well, but what they don't have is that full team to bring to bear to support you in every aspect of running your business. Strike that, I said running your business. You're running a school district, but the fact of the matter is you are like operating a small corporation. School law is not the only expertise that you need to function well. And we can meet those other needs in a way that my competitors just can't.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So can I stay or what do I do now?
Yeah, actually, we can invite everybody back in.
Okay.
And you're welcome to stay.
Thank you.
Thank you. While they're coming in, I'm going to move forward. Can I get a motion to adjourn to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Where is the, oh, sorry, I'll wait for the
Voting is
voting.
open.
Trying to.
Motion unanimously passes.
Whereas the Open Publics Meeting Act authorizes Board of Education to meet in executive session under certain circumstances, whereas the Open Publics Meeting Act requires the board to adopt a resolution at a public hearing or go into private session. Now therefore be it resolved that the Voorhees Township Board of Education, that it is necessary to meet in executive session to discuss the items involving matters involving personnel, including but not limited to employment, appointment, termination of employment, terms of condition of employment, evaluation of performance, promotion, discipline, or any public officer or employee. We will. I don't know how long we're gonna be. I'm not gonna say a time. I always get it wrong. It will remain confidential until it is made, I'm sorry. Any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential will be made public as soon as feasible, but the minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. And we will return to open session and there will be a vote following our discussion. Okay. That's it. Oh my. Can I get a motion to return to public session?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, we're waiting for Richard's not.
No.
My iPad's about to die. It's 40.
It's 10 o'clock.
Okay. Oh,
Mr. Bryce? Mr. Rosen, this is voting to come out of executive session, to return to public, I'm sorry, to return to public session.
Yes. It's just to return to public session.
The motion unanimously passes.
can I get a motion to approve appointing Gorman, Danella, and Morlock as board solicitor for the period from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, as per the following resolution? And I'm not going to read the resolution. We all.
So moved.
Second.
Online voting is open. There are 7 yeses and 2 nos. The nos are Mr. Rosen and Mr. Rosner. The motion carries.
Moving to district reorganization, can I get a motion to approve all items under district reorganization?
So moved. Second.
Online voting is open. The motion unanimously passes.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the March 13th, 2024 regular board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Online voting is open. I have 8 yeses and 1 abstention from Mr. Bryce. Motion-
Okay. I have a couple of comments and I apologize, but I would be remiss if I don't, because, right, we're moving on.
Oh, we
No.
we have a whole bunch in here, but we can,
President's comments?
they're all individual. In the district reorganization, we have them all as individual actions. There's
Oh,
11 of them.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry.
We have to do each one 9.2. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution concerning the board meeting dates for the August 2024 through June
Wait,
2020?
We did that. Number 3, depository.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve item 9.3?
So moved.
Second.
That's how we set it.
Okay.
Online voting is open. Would you rather I just say all in favor? Or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Bryce, are you can, okay. Motion passes.
Motion to approve the hiring, payment, and facsimile signature authorization for the 2024-2025 school year, item 9.4.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the legal newspaper to be used for the 2024-2025 school year as the Courier Post and the Voorhees Sun.
So moved.
9.5, yep.
Someone's gonna second that? We get a second?
Did you need it?
I missed it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve adopting all the policies, rules, and bylaws as in effect as of May 1st, 2024, and all job descriptions in effect as of May 1st, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the following: adopting the standard operating procedures and internal controls in effect as of May 1st, 2024, on file with the board secretary, and the purchasing manual in effect as of May 1st, 2024, also on file with the board secretary.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A motion adopting all curriculums and textbooks in effect as of May 1st, as shown on the attachment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the following regulatory appointments. I'm not going to read all of them, but thank you to Helen, Dr. Alegria, Donna Ross, Sue Donnelly, and Clark Mathis.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve Danielle Curie, Assistant Business Administrator, to fill the following roles in the event of the absence of Helen Haley, Business Administrator, Board Secretary, for the period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2024. Board Secretary, Custodian of School District Records, Contracting Agent, and Transfer Investment of Funds at authorized district depositories.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And motion to approve Danielle Carey, Assistant Business Administrator, as an approved signatory on all purchase orders, contracts, and checks for the 2024-2025 school year.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, we have to do the minutes again? We already did them. I went out of order.
Because I took that vote, people voted.
Oh,
on the meeting
gotcha.
date- on the
Okay.
Meeting dates.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's do this again. Motion to approve the minutes from the March 13th, 2024 regular board meeting.
S-
So moved.
Second. Keep it going. It's late.
Online voting is open.
I think so.
I have 2 abstentions by Mr. Bryce and Mrs. Watson, and the rest are yeses. Motion carries.
Okay, I'm gonna go really fast, but it's gonna be Teacher Appreciation Week, and I would be remiss if I did not say something. So, as we gather here today, I'm filled with immense gratitude and admiration for our incredible educators who dedicate their lives to shaping the minds and futures of our students. This coming week, as we celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week, I want to take a moment to recognize the unwavering commitment and exceptional work of our teachers across the district. Our teachers are the backbone of our education system, and they deserve our utmost respect and appreciation. Day in and day out, they pour their hearts and souls into their work, going above and beyond to ensure that our students receive the best possible education. They are not just teachers, they are mentors, role models, and champions of our children's success. While we celebrate the incredible work of our teachers, I also want to address the concerning political activity and threat of protest at Eastern High School. Please note that the Voorhees Board of Education only serves preschool through 8th grade, and there is a regional board of education that serves the Eastern High School. That said, we all live, thrive, and are impacted in Voorhees. The Voorhees Board of Education firmly believes that our school should be a safe and inclusive environment, free from political agendas or divisive rhetoric. We will not tolerate any actions that disrupt the learning process or create an atmosphere of tension and unease, and we are committed to ensuring that our schools remain focused on providing a high-quality education for all students. Moving on, I would like to take a moment to recognize the incredible achievements of our educators and students at Signal Hill. First, I want to commend Ms. Palumbo and her students for their outstanding art show. The creativity, talent, and dedication displayed in this exhibition were truly inspiring. It is a testament to the exceptional arts education program at Signal Hill. Additionally, I want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Ms. Stevens and the talented 4th grade teachers at Signal Hill for their incredible work in leading the Presidential Hall project. This innovative and engaging learning experience has not only enriched the lives of our students, but has also brought immense pride to our community. And I know many of the other schools are also doing a presidential hall. I just didn't have an opportunity to see those. Also last week, Signal Hill students purchased bandanas to support the Alicia Rose Victorious Foundation and raise awareness for children with cancer. Students wore their bandanas last Friday, and over $1,300 in proceeds will go towards the foundation's efforts to provide bandana pillows and kits to children and teens with cancer. Proceeds will also help open teen lounges in hospitals throughout the country. A sincere thank you to Ms. Siriani for organizing this event, as well as the members of our Signal Hill Parent Faculty Association for bringing this great idea to life. To close, I again want to express my deepest appreciation to all of our teachers across the district. Your unwavering commitment to our students, your passion for education, and your tireless efforts to create a brighter future for our community are truly remarkable. We are honored to have you as part of our team, and we are grateful for the incredible work you do every single day. Thank you, and happy Teacher Appreciation Week. All right. Fire drills and safety drills. On the attached, the HIB intimidation and bullying report. On the attached, suspensions. On the attached, Oprah requests received. They have both been closed out. Board secretary report.
Thank you.
Can I just ask for clarity? There was no attachment on suspensions. Were there no suspensions?
I have a attachment. No, wait.
No, you have an HIB.
No, I have a HIB. Sorry, you're right. No, yeah, there are no, that mean there are no suspensions? Okay, so we'll get it sent. Thank you for catching that, Ms. Brody. Board Secretary.
Okay, thank you. The first item in my section is the maintenance projects that were completed over spring break. Mr. Mathis and his staff were very busy over spring break, working in each of the schools. Some of the projects that they completed are at the Crescent School. Dutch doors were installed in all the pre-K rooms, and a bench that was in the hallway was repurposed to make a nice shelf for their copy machine in the hallway. HVAC maintenance was done throughout the district. At Hamilton, carpet by the gym was replaced with luxury vinyl tile, which we've been doing over the whole district, as I mentioned earlier during the budget presentation. At Signal Hill, also the cooling tower was prepared for cooling season. At this building, you might have noticed it's kind of brighter in our hallway. There was installation of LED lighting in the whole building. HVAC, cooling tower work was done. Archives we have an archive room back in here that was all straightened up because we'll be receiving iPad delivery of 1,800 iPads very soon. And then the Eclipse glasses were received and distributed to each of the schools to prepare for the Eclipse that I believe was on April 8th. At the middle school, there was painting that was done in hallways in a prep room. The kitchen storage room was stripped and waxed, more HVAC work. Furniture was delivered. It's a lot of student chairs and teacher chairs and desks throughout the district, throughout the school. At Osage, HVAC work again, and district-wide, we had a generator inspection and ceiling tiles were removed. So while we're off that week, they're very busy doing as much as they can do during that time period. We take full advantage of the time that there's no one in the buildings. So thank you again to Mr. Mathis and his staff. The next item is investments. As we talked about a few meetings ago, we were going to start investing money in CDs at TD Bank and also in a money market at New Jersey ARM. And the interest rates are really great, 5.3% for New Jersey ARM, 5.13% for the others. I checked the statement as of April 30th for New Jersey ARM, and we've made over $9,000, which is great. Of the amount of money that we have, we put 17 million, which is roughly half of the money that we have to our name, in investments. We still want to keep safe investments in our regular bank accounts as well. These are mostly insured by FDIC. All right, so that's encouraging. And then the next item is a very exciting item, our new preschool building. You've probably seen the press release and so forth that we closed on the preschool building, which is at 250 Haddonfield Berlin Road. It was a long time in the process. As I mentioned earlier tonight, we were approved for the preschool education aid back in September of 22. And at that point, we knew that we would have to find space for 500 students. In October of 22, we started looking for building space or also looking to see if we should build on to what we already have. Mr. Mathis came across a building in Gibbsboro on 561, which is Haddonfield Berlin Road. We looked into that, but we also searched throughout Voorhees Township to see if we could find something. And nothing really matched what we were looking for as much as the building in Gibbsboro. So we started that process in October of 22. Finally, in May of 23, we had a special meeting on May 30th that approved the purchase agreement of the building. But from May 30th of 23 until February of 24. It took that long to get approval because the application was submitted to the Department of Ed, Office of School Facilities, and we also applied for the grant on the same day. So on May 30th of last year, we applied for the land acquisition and also for the grant. But the the Office of School Facilities does take a lot of time to review things. They have a lot of different applications and maybe not a lot of staff, and they're very thorough with their whole analysis. So it did take a long time for their approval. We also had to go to planning board meetings at Gibbsboro since it was not in our town. So we went to a planning board meeting in July of 23 and also in March of 24. And we most recently went in April of 24. So after all of these different approvals and the success of getting the grant, we were able to go to settlement on April 25th to buy the building. It's going to be called the Voorhees Early Childhood Development Center. The next day, April 26th, we advertise for bids for the renovation of the project. On May 7th, we will have our pre-bid meeting at the site where people that are interested in bidding on the renovation will walk through it and ask questions of our architect and get to see it firsthand. And then we'll open bids, and this is kind of like great timing. We're opening the bids on May 30th, which is what I said, exactly 1 year since we approved the purchase agreement to buy the building. So it's strange how dates work out that way, but it's exactly 1 year to the day. So that took a little longer than we thought, but we're just very thrilled to have it and very excited to move forward. So if all goes well with the bids that we receive, we hope to award a bid on June 10th and then start construction or renovation soon thereafter. We're going to host a community forum on June 17th at 7 p.m. at VMS Theater. And that is really to address any questions about preschool and the upcoming construction. And that'll be open to anybody that would like to come, whether they're in Gibbsboro or Voorhees. Anybody that has any questions is welcome to come to that forum. So we'll be posting more about that. So thank you very much. And I hope you can understand our excitement in this whole process. Thank you.
No, thank you. It's another wonderful achievement in our district. Also, Ms. Furdy, thank you, Ms. Santor. The suspensions has been uploaded. Okay. Superintendent's report.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'll try to be very quick. At the February 28th board meeting, concern was raised regarding funding of the drama club. So on March 21st, I had a meeting with the drama club director, and after deliberation, the district agreed to finance the annual rental expenses for the sound system and lights, amounting to approximately $5,600. So we have agreed to do that each year. We extend our gratitude to the drama club's faculty, students, and parents for their dedicated efforts and express our commitment to support the club's endeavors to make sure that our students have a wonderful drama experience. We had a preschool fair last night, so I want to thank some of the staff members who are here tonight who were there last night. From 4 to 7 p.m. We interviewed a total of 46 candidates just for our preschool program. So it was a wonderful experience, and we found some really wonderful candidates. As Ms. Haley mentioned, we advertised for a construction vendor on April 26th, and we hope to open the building next year. We're uncertain about the date that the building will be open. We will not know that until we appoint a vendor who will then give us an approximate date. So due to the competitive teacher market, the New Jersey Department of Education has given the district verbal permission to hire staff for the 24-25 school year, to hire half the staff that's needed for our preschool building, which is approximately 8 teachers and 8 instructional associates. So we'll be able to hire them commencing on September 1st. This evening's agenda includes the consideration of 2 teachers and 1 instructional associate. So we're not quite there at half yet. We do have quite a few resumes to go through from last night. So our plan is to pair these staff members with our preschool staff in both district and provider sites to give them hands-on experience starting September 1st until the building opens. Additionally, these staffs can serve as substitutes when preschool staff are absent. It's important to note that the preschool educate or expansion aid funds all of our preschool salaries with no impact on the general budget. I have submitted a letter to the Commissioner of Early Childhood requesting permission to hire all of the staff for the Early Childhood Department Center by September 1st, and I have not received a response. That letter just went out on Friday. Given the current competitive teacher market, hiring staff after September 1st may prove challenging, and we want to have a full staff in time for the opening of the building. So at this time, we are going to hire half the staff needed for the building with hopes that we will get permission to hire the entire staff. We have received the budget from the preschool grant for all of the staff, so we just want to be able to hire them before the building opens. So that's what we're going to ask for permission for. Delayed opening, we're going to have a change in our delayed opening schedule for next year. Instead of doing the 90-minute delay, we're going to align ourselves with all the other school districts, and it's going to be a 2-hour delay. Parents are being notified through the principal's newsletters and through my newsletter as well. So we're going to move to a 2-hour delayed opening starting next year. We had Take Your Sons and Daughters to Work Day for the second time in the last few years. It was wonderful on April 25th. Staff members brought their children and had exciting time. I want to announce that today is Principal and Substitute Appreciation Day. So we do have one of our principals here, Ms. Tadley. So happy Principal Day to all of our principals and to all of our substitutes. We thank you. Teacher Appreciation is next week. And of course, Ms. Watson said it so eloquently, we value and appreciate all of our teachers. Nurses Day is May 8th. And so again, we want to say to our nurses, thank you as well. I am proud of our initiatives to offer clubs to our elementary students, and I'm appreciative for all those wonderful staff members who serve as club advisors. For next year, we plan to run clubs for marking periods 2 and 3. And I just want to give you an overview of the clubs that we offer because they're absolutely wonderful. At E.T. Hamilton, where Ms. Tadley is the principal, we have a science club, a writing with Taylor Swift club. I love that one. A pastel drawing club, Hamilton Hawk Art Club, drama club, and a Harry Potter book club. And all our students can be involved, and all our 4th and 5th grade students. Crescent Elementary has a drama club, a computer club, a STEAM club, sports and gaming club, and a gardening club. At Osage, we have a super study skills club, a health club, the Golden Ticket Reading Club, Brain Teaser Club, Restart Your Love of Reading Book Club, and a STEM club. And at Signal Hill, we have a chess club, a newspaper club, and a public speaking club. So we're very proud of those clubs. Our children enjoy being in them. So thank you to all our staff, and principals have their budget for next year, and we'll be running the clubs again next year. So Board President, that ends my report.
Thank you. Policy, we're on to committee reports. Mrs. Stewart, can I get a policy committee update?
Yes, the policy committee met for an hour on April 25th. Dr. Hackett, Mr. Moskowitz, and board members Julie Ketover, Julianne Birdie, and I were present. For first read, we discussed the following revised policies and regulations. Policy 6700, investments. Policy and regulation 7610, vandalism. Policy and regulation 8630, bus driver, bus aid responsibility. Policy 9323, notification of juvenile offender case disposition. For second read, we discussed the following. Policy 0155, board committees, regulation 2200, curriculum content, policy 2340, field trips, policy and regulation 2423, bilingual education, policy and regulation 2431.4, prevention and treatment of sports-related concussions and head injuries, regulation 5440, honoring student achievement, policy 5750, equitable educational opportunity, policy 5841, secret societies. We also discussed policy 0164.1, conduct of board members during public meetings, and discussed adding related content to our board handbook, which we'll continue working on for the future. Policy 0164.2, request for information by board members, and we're revamping same for possible adoption in our district, and protocols for artificial intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Rutter, can I get an update from the Academic Excellence Committee?
Of course. On April 10th, the Academic Excellence Committee met for 1 hour. It was Dr. Hackett, Mr. Moskowitz, Jennifer Branch Stewart, Julie Ketover, Richard Rosen, and myself. We also discussed artificial intelligence guidance. That was a document prepared by Mr. Taylor. We went over the after-school clubs that are being offered currently and what it may look like next year. Mr. Moskowitz reviewed data from the past 3 years for iReady. And we talked about 5th grade leadership opportunities at all of the elementary schools. And we talked about a pilot program specifically for 2nd graders that is potentially going to be run next year. That's all.
Thank you so much. Ms. Verdi, can I get an update from the Technology Committee?
Yes, so we held our meeting on Monday, April 29th. Present was myself, Richard Rosen, Jacob Rosner, and Monica Watson. Staff present was Mr. Moskowitz. We started our conversation talking about the issue of keyboards for iPads. We were updated that all VMS iPads have recently been updated with combination cases that do include keyboards, and that over the summer transition will start for grades 1 through 5, and unclear yet on how long that timeline will take for that full rollout. The committee then turned its attention to the AI protocol document that the other committees also reviewed. We applauded the efforts done thus far in creation of the document, but did have some follow-up questions. And so the committee will be meeting again to get some of those questions and concerns that we had clarified. And then finally, the committee discussed the malfunction of the VMS security system in January. And we were assured that that the cause of the malfunction was they were unable to pinpoint the cause of the malfunction, but that steps were taken to hopefully prevent future malfunctions from happening. And like I said, the committee will be meeting again soon to address the protocol document. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Audience participation. Anyone wishing to address the board, please approach the side table on the right and write your name and address on the login sheet. While the board has limited its ability to respond to the public on matters involving personnel, litigation, negotiations, and attorney-client privilege, the board will now hear comments from the public relating to items on the agenda. For this board meeting, comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board will not take action this evening. You will be notified at some later time by letter, electronic mail, telephone, or in the context of a later board meeting of any action the board does take. Seeing none, comments from the board.
Just a quick comment. I just wanted to reiterate the excitement about the purchase of the new Voorhees Early Childhood Center. And I wanted to extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Hackett, Ms. Haley, their staff for their pivotal roles in making this vision a reality. I also wanted to thank the board members for their approval and support of this purchase. You really, with that approval and support, demonstrated our collective commitment to the future of education in our community. A special thank you also goes out to our colleagues in Gibbsboro. Your collaboration and support have been crucial in moving this project forward. The Early Childhood Center, in my opinion, is more than just a building. It's a place where our children will start their educational journeys, where they will learn to explore, play, and grow. And it represents our investment in the futures and our belief in the power of education from the earliest stages. So thank you.
Very quickly, I just want to thank all of the staff in the audience who have been here all night long. I know that this is a super long meeting, but I see all of you and I appreciate all of you.
Including those of you that we lost.
Yes,
We saw you.
I really wanted to say it earlier before everybody started to leave, but.
Agreed, agreed. Okay, moving to policy. Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under policy?
So moved.
Second.
Online voting is open. Motion unanimously passes.
Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under curriculum?
So moved.
Second.
Online voting is open. Motion unanimously passes.
Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under personnel?
So moved.
Second.
Online voting is open. The motion unanimously passes.
Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under transportation?
So moved.
Second.
I have a question about transportation.
Yes.
I know we purchased a school bus. Why aren't we using it?
Well, we need CDL drivers and we have 2 people currently taking CDL training. We started out with 1 person that we had, but he left the district. That was our transportation coordinator. So we have a new one. But yes, two of our transportation coordinator and one other staff are taking the CDL classes right now. I know the one person already took the test, passed the written test, is now training behind the wheel. We're going to hold classes in the summer as well. We interview people that were interested in-house. So we have that in the works. So we're getting there. In the meantime, we do have a maintenance agreement with TNL. So they drive our buses around and make sure they're, charged up, and Mr. Mathis also keeps track of them. But it's in the works. It's just taking a little while to get the CDL drivers.
So is that offered to teachers and staff? Because I know
Yes.
at Eastern, the teachers do it
Yes.
to make extra money.
Yes.
Yeah.
We put that out. We have a whole agreement that they would sign, and we send it out to everyone. I think we did like a Google form at one point. So we had some interest, and then we actually conducted interviews, and in the end, there were just 3 people in the whole district that were interested. We were also approached by one of the local transportation companies that we use to see if maybe we could have an arrangement with them to use their drivers in our buses, which we have actually Amy's looking into that for us, to see if how we would go about doing that procurement wise. And also what kind of agreement we would have with them. We've also talked to Eastern to see if we can have a shared service agreement with any of their drivers. So it's all in the works. It's just not there yet. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, we just had 3 people that were interested. So we tried, but we're getting there. Yeah, we're getting there. But thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm. Online voting is open. The motion unanimously passes.
Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under buildings and grounds?
So moved. Second.
Online voting is open. Motion unanimously passes.
Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under finance?
So moved.
Second.
Online voting is open. There are 8 yeses and 1 abstention from Mrs. Stupler. Motion passes.
Moving to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board, please approach the side table and write your name and address on the login sheet. While the board has limited its ability to respond to the public on matters involving personnel litigation, negotiations, and attorney-client privilege, the board will now hear comments from the public. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board will not take action this evening. You will be notified at some later time by letter, electronic mail, telephone, or in the context of a later board meeting of any action the board does take.
Hi, Marlene Kaplan. I waited out this meeting because I want to thank somebody. And if I waited until next month, I wouldn't remember why. But I want to thank Dr. Hackett. At last month's meeting, I asked a question, and on my way out, Dr. Alegria gave me information that I did not have, and I thank her for it. But a few days later, Dr. Hackett called and gave me the information that I wanted. And I'm just really impressed with that level of communication. And so I thank you very much.
I echo that. We get many, many emails, or I get many, many emails commending Dr. Hackett and her responsiveness and how appreciative people in our community are of her responding to questions that are asked at board meetings. So thank you for that comment.
Just starting my timer. I just had a couple comments. The sports program, it's probably one of the most unique things. As a parent of two special needs children, just to see your child accepted but not separated. When I pick her up and she sees the kids, and she's very sensitive, but it's just as a parent to see that your child is playing with other kids and not singled out. Just watching the parents was enough to make me enjoy bringing my daughter tonight. I also wanted to congratulate the retirements. We have Linda Villoria, John Shea, Dennis Mignon again. I wanted to give a personal shout out to Gina Barucki and Colleen Rossi, both our colleagues. They probably have just shy of 80 years combined. My daughters were fortunate to have them, but they have lots of things they're going to do in the future. The one I had question on the vandalism regulation, a couple of things as far as the principal or designee getting the estimate for the repairs and stuff. I don't know if that's the best utilizing to have a principal to know who to ask. I'm not sure if there's a different person to go do that, but it was 7610C3 ABC. So the principal would obtain the estimates for the correction to fix it. The principal would present the bills to I don't think that should fall under a principal to get payment for vandalism. I just think they have enough stuff in the building. I don't think that should fall under that, in my opinion. The one problem I had tonight was the solicitor things. I know we're interviewing for jobs, but it's difficult as a special needs parent to see special needs kids lumped in as it's $1 million. It's this. I understand the parameters. I understand that, but we have a few parents that are special needs, and to be considered that we want to do what's best. And I know sometimes the requests are not advantageous and a little out there, but to I'd like to remember that they're children. Even though the parent might be very unrealistic what they want, to still kind of lump them into that is very difficult as a parent, let alone a taxpayer and a teacher. Even though I know the point was to sell how we'll work on it, but it was difficult to sit and listen, and another friend back there has a special needs child, and I'm sure that wasn't the intent, but that's how it came across. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing your daughter with us.
My name is Kristen Steffen. I'm here on behalf of the CPAC. The CPAC is Special Education Parent Advisory Group, and it's a state mandated district level parent driven group charged with providing input to the local school district on system level challenges in special education and related services. We have had the pleasure of working with Dr. Alegria and Mrs. Ross this year. We've had quarterly meetings that have gone well. But we would like to grow our group, our parent group. So that's why I'm here tonight, to kind of plug the group and also thank them for helping us and working with us. We meet at night, and then a week later, we kind of follow up with them and go over everything. So we welcome new members, and the information is updated on the school district website. And it's been done by the child study team, and it's located under the special services tab. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional board comments?
Are we on board comments? Yeah, okay. I will do this fast. I know I'm standing in the way of going home. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. This is a time to reflect on the importance of our mental well-being, particularly in the fast-paced and often polarizing world we live in today. The constant stream of news and social media can sometimes leave us caught in a cycle of outrage, affecting not only ourselves, but those around us. I've noticed this more and more over the last few weeks in our community, being outraged and reacting based on inflammatory social media posts and rumor mills, and how vital it is that we strive to listen more and connect on a deeper, more human level, rather than remaining stuck in moments of anger and isolationism, unwilling to talk to those with differing opinions or views on the world than us. Furthermore, as we approach the end of the school year, our students are facing the pressures of standardized testing, which can significantly impact their mental health. I know there were some real jitters and anxiety in our home leading up to these tests. I also want to speak to the challenges of serving as a school board member. This role, while fulfilling in many ways, comes with its own set of stresses and mental health triggers, from managing differing opinions to handling various communication styles, personality conflicts, and adversarial interactions with little opportunities for our board to interact and get to know one another on a personal basis. I've personally felt the impact of board service on my own mental health at times, which really came to a head for me in January. And I really questioned for a minute there, could I go on like this? Because the toll on my own mental health was making me physically sick. I was having trouble sleeping and feeling just really disillusioned and low. I'm fairly confident I'm not alone in feeling that way. I'm sure other board members have had similar thoughts and struggles, but it's not something that's necessarily talked about because of the stigma around mental health. Recognizing this, I've made a conscious effort over the last several months to reduce my social media intake to help safeguard my own mental well-being and trying to be more deliberate about scheduling in moments of self-care and reflection. I've also made changes in the ways that I think about my various roles as a mother, wife, board member, employee, volunteer, and citizen in this community. And how to be best in those roles, I need to step back and think about what is depleting me more than fulfills me. And appropriate social media guidelines and limits have been one of the ways that have been working for me. And I say working because I'm still working on it and it's still very much a work in progress. And I just wanted to talk and encourage others to consider if a similar step might be right for them as well. I'm doing a lot better, but I think that it's important to tell our stories about mental health struggles because it's not something to be ashamed of. I'm proud to applaud our district's proactive measures related to mental health, including the support from Care Solace and the dedication of our staff who work tirelessly to ensure the well-being of our students. I also commend our efforts in implementing wellness activities for our faculty, recognizing the importance of taking care of those who educate and support our students every day. Lastly, I want to remind everyone that it's never too late to seek help. There's absolutely no shame in needing to talk to someone, whether it's for yourself or your child. We are a community that cares and feels deeply, and there are resources available for those who need them. Again, I want to thank our teachers, guidance counselors, IAs, support staff, and administration who think and tend not only to academic successes for our students, but also the mental health and well-being of our entire school community. Thank you.
We are no longer going into executive session. Any information that we need to provide, we can do so via email. Yeah, it's just relating to timelines. We will do that by the end of the week. Next meeting date is June 10th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the admin building. And can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.